Happy Homebrew Wednesday, folks. Good to see you. This week, the second instalment of my sourdough beer experiment. And also, at the end, I'm going to taste one for the first time. Now, I gave one of these to Harry Brew 69 from Idle Valley Brewing, and he reviewed it last week, so I thought it was high time I tried one and gave you some opinions as well. But first, a quick update. My SJ pour beer is with Harry. It has been for a few weeks. I've got a few left in the cupboard, but to be honest, I'm not massively impressed. I'll be surprised if I get into the top three. And so I've drank my remaining stock, which means, I suppose, I should brew it again, just in case I do get into the top three, so it's a good excuse to do another brew. In the meantime, I've done a couple more brews. I did a kit. I did a Cooper's Stout kit, which I bought from Wilco's, just for a bit of fun, because I fancied not sticking to the recipe and doing something a bit different. So I did a mini mash with some pale malt and some smoked malt, and I also added some extra hops and did a quick boil with the wort that I got, and then used that to make up the remaining fermentables as well as the can. Fermented it with, in fact, the slurry from my SJ pour beer. So that's in the primary, it's just about fermented. And also I did an all grain black IPA about 6 or 7 days ago now. Late night brewing session on a school night, which was good, everything went well, and that is also just about finished in the primary. And I'm contemplating dry hopping, although I might not, because I've run out of beer, more or less. So I might just get it straight into a keg in time for the weekend. Anyway, I digress. Why don't you go and watch the next instalment of my sourdough experiment. Here it is. Cheers. Hello. So, update on my sourdough brewing experiment. It is now, believe it or not, Tuesday evening. And here is the starter. Now, so we brewed this up Saturday night, and I did film a quick bit of footage Sunday morning on my mobile phone, which was obviously in between the last Saturday night clip and this clip. Sunday night, I was checking on it. I decided to give it a sniff, and to be honest, it stank. And I was thinking, oh dear. And I almost tipped it away, deleted the footage from the camera. But I didn't quite have enough time to be messing about, so I left it. Monday morning, didn't have time to look at it really, I had to get to work. It got to last night, Monday night. I didn't really have much time last night either, but I did have to give it a quick look. Checked it, there was a bit of foam on top. I gave it a sniff, and it still smelled a bit funky, but there was a definite yeast aroma going on. So I thought, oh, there's hope. Anyway, came down from bed this morning, and there was probably 3/4 of an inch of croissant on it, and really smelling of yeast. And when I gave it a swirl, it really foamed up. You know, all the CO2 came up out of it. So obviously there is some yeast going on in there. It was a long lag, probably because there weren't many yeast cells. And for that reason, and also to try to make the yeast the dominant organism in the starter, I have decided that it would be best to step it up. And what I mean by that is, gave it a swirl about half an hour ago, so most of the yeast is in suspension, most of the solids, the trouble, dead yeast cells and wheat flour that was in there should have sunk to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is decant the liquid portion of this starter into this sanitised demijohn. I'm then going to give my conical a really good wash and rinse, and I'm going to brew another litre, exactly the same as starter, back into the conical, and then I'm going to put the solution with the yeast in it back into this starter, give it a swirl and a shake to get it oxygenated, and then I'm going to let it ferment out. Once it's fermented out, what I will do probably is let it clear, and then so I can tip the starter wort off the beer, I suppose it will be, and maybe even get the slurry and put it in a sterile jam jar in the fridge so for when I can use it. I don't have very much dry malt extract right now, so I certainly don't have enough to do a 1 gallon batch. So which is what this will be used for. So I have ordered some. When that arrives, I'll hopefully be able to do something over the weekend. Like I say, it's Tuesday night now, so that's my plan. So off we go. So as you can see, still got all the yeast flour in there. I'm going to swirl that up. Hopefully I've got most of the yeast in solution. We're going to give it a good wash out and brew up another batch. So as you can see, got a yeast here in solution. We've got a new batch of DME and water, 10:1 ratio, 100 grams in 1 litre, which should get us to about 1040 original gravity. We'll boil that up, not boil it over this time, boil it for a few minutes to make sure it's absolutely sterile, cool it rapidly in some cold water in the sink, and then I'm going to pitch the yeast back into here, give the whole thing a great shake and a swirl and all that good stuff, and then leave it, and I'm just going to let it ferment out. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm drinking 2 beers, watch my Homebrew Wednesday from the 15th of April 2014. Cheers guys. Alright guys, experimental brewing update, well, next step I suppose. It's now Saturday again, so it's almost a whole week since I started this with the starter. The starter pretty much fermented out by yesterday, Friday. So what I did was chilled it, put it into a cold place. I didn't refrigerate it because I couldn't quite fit it into the fridge without annoying some significant other people in my house, put it that way. As you can see, we had quite a big krauser on this starter. It actually overflowed a little bit, which is not best practice, of course. But given this is a sourdough yeast, there's probably all sorts of other stuff in there as well. Wasn't really concerned this time. Obviously, if I was brewing a beer with a pure strain that I'd purchased, then an overflowing starter would be, you know, a big cause of concern. So what we're going to do, this is chilled down and all the yeast has settled out down to the bottom, more or less anyway. So I'm going to brew up some wort using, I've got 4 litres of water on the go, bring it up to a boil here, and I'm using this Suma barley malt extract, which I bought from Amazon for about £12, less than £13, free shipping, so less than £13 for 3.2 kilos, which is a bargain in my opinion, because a tin of Cooper's malt extract is more expensive than that, and you only get about half as much. And I know Zippy did a smash beer with a whole tub of this not long ago, and I think it came out alright, so I thought I'd give it a go with this because it's nice and cheap, it's good to have in stock, and yeah, I'm just doing a small batch with the sourdough starter. So I'm going to do a boil, a full hour boil I think with this. I'm going to use some hops that I've got in. I'll have to just have a rummage around and see what I've got in stock that I don't have very much of that I can use for a small boil. Obviously chill it, and then when the time comes I'm going to pour off the majority of this so I can make a slurry using just a small bit of liquid in the bottom, and I'm going to inoculate the wort using that. So I'll just bring this up to the boil, I'll measure out some of this malt extract, and you'll catch me up in a little while. Okay, as you can see we've hit a boil on this 4 litres, so I'm just going to turn that down just so it simmers. We've also just boiled this kettle, And I've measured out 600 grams of the extract. So I'm just going to top this up to a litre with boiling water, because obviously I want it to be as easy to pour as possible to get it all into the kettle. So I've got a spoon, and just get that melting in there. So I've calculated this. So I'm going to do a 5 litre boil for an hour. I might lose a litre obviously in evaporation. I've got 0.6 of a kilo of the liquid malt extract. I didn't calculate it properly, I just did a few mental sums, but I reckon I should be somewhere between 1040 and 1050, 1060 at the worst I suppose, in terms of OG. With this, I think there's quite a lot of yeast in there. It was a good sized starter obviously, but there was a really long lag time when we first pitched the sourdough into it, so I'm not sure how healthy the yeast is or what, so I'm going to give it a big pitch. You know, what the hell, I'm doing this really for the video and for interest rather than to make a high quality beer, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, I think I've just about got this dissolved. So we're going to get this in here. Just turn the flame off because I don't want to burn the extract on the bottom of the pan at all. Obviously just give it a good rinse out as well. I don't really want to leave any sugar in the pan, in the jug. I'm going to switch that for this. And just get it dissolved, then we'll just put the flame back on. And while I wait for that to boil again, I'm going to go and get Homebrew. Cheers everyone. So this is my American Amber Ale now. I think I did have it on a Homebrew Wednesday a week or two ago. It's cleared, it's been in the keg for a couple of weeks. It's a nice coppery amber colour. It is pretty clear, nice persistent creamy head. Good hop aroma, it uses Willamette hops, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. Let me see if I can show it to you. Let's just turn this focus ring. I reckon you should be able to see that. As you can see, looks pretty good. And we'll focus back out at this distance. And we're back. Cheers. How are we doing here? Right. So this is going to be a bit of a smash. I had rummaged around in the fridge and I found just kind of the remnants of a packet of Magnum in there, which I have been using for my Sierra Nevada Pale Ale clones. It's a really good general purpose bittering hop, German obviously, quite high alpha acids. I've only ever used it for a bittering addition, so early in the boil, and I'm going to stick some in. So I'm going to stick some in at the beginning, a bittering addition, 4 grams. It's only a 5 litre boil. 4 grams at the beginning. I might stick another 4 grams in with 10 minutes to go. Maybe it'll see how much I've got in the packet, and then might dry hop with it as well. I've never used Magnum as a late addition, so we'll see how it goes. This is an experimental beer, as you know. We're nearly there. We'll come back. Okay, so we've hit a boil, although it's not the most vigorous one. suppose it is boiling. And normally I wouldn't film myself, you know, throwing hops into a kettle because that's not very interesting, but there was almost no hop break material with this extract. And I know that extracts can produce less hop break than all grain wort. And I know this is not specifically a brewing extract, so it could be to do with that, but it did get me thinking, because when I brew an all grain batch, I do get some hop break, but not loads. I never get very much foam, and I was wondering, could that be something to do with my water chemistry? Does anyone know? And if you do, what can I test to find out? So anyway, yeah, we're at a boil, 60 minutes, 4 grams Magnum. There you go. Right, so boil over. Not boil over, you know, finish the boil. It's currently chilling in the sink. Old school method. I didn't bother using an immersion chiller because I couldn't, small batch wouldn't bothered. I'm going to filter the hops out using a colander and this pan. I have this pan on with a small amount of water in it, just boiling away for 15 minutes or so to make sure everything sanitary inside. I didn't really want to stick it in star sand because I try not to use star sand when I don't absolutely have to. So I'll filter the hops out into this pan and then use this pan to decant through a funnel into the demijohn. Obviously this has been sanitised with star sand, sanitised bung and airlock as well. Pull that off, yeah. Recipe was 4 grams. 4 grams at 60, 3 grams at 10, 3 grams at 5, 3 grams at flame out. And I'll probably dry hop some of this as well because there was a bit left. That's it, I'm just waiting for it to chill, taking temperature measurements. When I get down to around about 20, I will I'll get this yeast in there and we'll see how it goes. I mean, yeah. So that was that, guys. I didn't take any footage of the bottling process or anything like that. I think the last thing I did was the brew day. It sat in a demijohn for a good month, perhaps a little bit more. I wanted to make sure it really fermented out, got down to the, as lower finishing gravity as it would go. It constantly had a tea towel wrapped around it to try to keep the light off it, so hopefully that has worked all right. So here we go. Let's try one, see what it's like. So the style is kind of a pale ale smash. We had a little hiss there with the cap, tiny bit of smoke. Smells a bit wheaty, which is interesting because this is a barley beer, but obviously the yeast has been cultivated in wheat all of its life. So I suppose that kind of makes sense. Let's give it a pour. I'm going a bit more aggressive to try and force some head. Right. A little bit of yeast or perhaps some flour debris at the bottom there. Now I really had to force that head. It doesn't look like this one was anywhere near as carbonated as the one that Harry had from his video, so I don't know why that might be. I've got a few bubbles rising. Yeah, a good few actually, so it is carbonated. I really did have to force the head though. Again, I'm getting that yeast, wheaty kind of, almost like a Hefe from this, or a Belgian maybe. Probably more Belgian than German, so yeah. Belgian kind of wheat beer, something like a wit beer. Is that what they call it? Blonde? I don't know. Well, yeah, like Harry said, Very, very light on the hops, so I think I probably underdid it with the amount of hops I put in. Not to say that it's a bad thing. Carbonation is low. It is carbonated though. Mouthfeel is pretty good, nice. It could probably be a bit drier. There's still a background sweetness there, which may be because the yeast didn't finish the job. I'm not sure. I don't remember if I took gravity readings, and if I did, what they were. It could definitely do with more hop bitterness. Clarity, well, I've got a bit of sweat on the glass. It's not clear, but it's not far off, especially considering what I put in it. Yeah, I would say it's kind of a cross between a very malty pale ale and some kind of Belgian wheat beer, which is interesting. In any case, it is quite a refreshing beverage, so yes, I'm pretty pleased. It's nice to see an experiment through from an idea to realisation, straight to the glass, and actually taste one. And good to get an opinion of someone else. I have one bottle of this left, and I did say to Beer Lover 1983 Brew for giving me the idea, if you want one, mate, I've got one left, let me know, I'll happily send it over to you, along with whatever else I've got in stock at the time. Anyway, that's it for this week. I'm sorry I think it's been quite long, this one. Hopefully you found it interesting. I try to keep the content fresh, as they say. So yeah, everyone have a great rest of the week. I will be brewing Saturday afternoon, I think, if anyone's planning an Uvu session. So otherwise, enjoy the rest of the week. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. Cheers, fellas.